Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know what it is. This is Tony Lynch, and I'm the host of this podcast. And yes, we are your number one podcast for bringing you conversations around death, dying, and grief, with all the messiness that comes in between, with some amazing people out here changing people's lives one heartbeat at a time. Not only are they out here changing lives, but they walk the walk and talk the talk too, right? And so they have some amazing journeys and out here doing some amazing work. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that if this is your first time tuning in, do me a favor, head on over to their YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, this is a live stream, so if you have any questions or comments, put them in the comment section. We'll be sure to answer them as we go. Now, without further ado, one last thing, I got to tell you this. This is for educational purposes only, okay? So, guys, if you're going to put comments in this section, please be respectful and make sure that you know that people that are attending, they're in the comment section, they're actively grieving as well. So please be respectful of that. Now, without further ado, I'm going to bring on my next guest. Guys, help me welcome Karen to the show. Karen, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Tony?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So excited to be here.
I'm excited as well. Thank you. So now, before we get started, introduce yourself to the audience. Tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
Absolutely. So I'm Karen Taylor, and I live about 2 hours south of Chicago in a small rural town, Bloomington, Illinois. And I am a grief transformation coach. And so I'm really focused on helping women who feel stuck following a significant loss, and I'm helping them grow through that without leaving the loss behind them.
I love that. Now, how did you? I love that you're a grief transformational coach. Now, thank you for the work that you do, which leads me to my first question: how did you get into this work?
So the work found me, and I think that so many of us in this space can relate to that. I don't think, when we were younger, I don't think anybody's out there thinking, I'm going to be a grief coach, or, I'm going to be out there talking about grief. But when we have these experiences, oftentimes we find ourselves learning so much from it that we feel this obligation to carry that message forward. And so that's absolutely what happened in my case. I was in the corporate world for most of my career was in the corporate space. Had an opportunity to leave in 2018 to pursue something else. Didn't know what that was going to be. I thought it would be an extension of what I was doing in the corporate world. But life had other plans, as it often does. And in March of 2019, my entire world changed. And I received a phone call that my sister had passed away in a fire at their home. And, when people say your life changes in an instant, that's literally what happens. And, there was a life before March 4th, and then there was a life after March 4th. And I found myself very lost, trying to figure out how to navigate a loss of this magnitude. I had never experienced anything like this. And as I started to, kind of work through how do you heal from something like this, I was pretty surprised at I would say, lack of resources that I found available, or the resources that I found that just didn't mirror what I was experiencing. We have, a model that has kind of been, shown to us as the model for navigating grief, and so appreciative of the work that has been done, groundbreaking for its time, but it just didn't match what I was feeling. So I started by thinking I was just doing it wrong, because we kind of, when we don't know the answers, our mind often just puts the blame back to us, because our mind would rather us feel that than feel uncertain. So it gives, the illusion of control. So I'm a researcher, so that's what I did. I just started digging in and trying to find other healing modalities that weren't readily available to me. And it just kept going. Like I surrendered to the process. And I remember saying to the universe, if you show me what all this is meant for, what I'm supposed to learn from this, I will carry that message forward. And it took me a little while to get on board with that. I had to work through some other layers and old limiting belief patterns. But I got to the point where I understood and knew that this is what I'm meant to do in this world. I didn't recognize myself after going through this. I had completely transformed.
Mhm.
I, you know, I healed, but the grief is still there. I think about my sister every single day. The grief doesn't go away, but we learn to live with the grief and we learn to grow through the grief. And it's a blessing. It was a blessing to me. I would not be the person I am today had I not had the experience of walking through that door of transformation that grief often presents.
Mhm.
And so I'm very passionate about it, as we are. And there's a lot to do in this space. There's grief has been kind of ignored for a really long time. And so I'm so grateful. There's so many of us that are now, speaking up and speaking out about grief, because we just can't ignore grief anymore. The price is too high.
This is very true, right? Which leads me to my next question, because I love the fact that, you said it, it kind of found you, right? Because it does. No one wakes up and says, well, no, I have a friend. I have a friend who actually woke up and said, this is what I want to do. And she's really good at what she does, right? But there, for those of us like ourselves, we didn't wake up. We didn't, we didn't wake up and say, you know what? I think today I want to go through some extreme hurt so I can do something different. We never do that,
Yeah,
right?
no one's signing up for that, right?
No one's signing up for that, right? So, in your own opinion, what is one of the things that grief taught you?
Oh my gosh, so many lessons. Um, I think one of the biggest things that it taught me was it was more than just about the pain.
Mhm.
That it was really about rediscovering who I am after experiencing this loss, because grief changes you. It just does. You can't go back to who you were before the loss. And I think so many people get stuck because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make ourselves fit into a space that doesn't exist anymore. And so that was a surprise to me. I did not expect this journey to completely bring me into a space where I would know myself on the very deepest levels,
Mhm.
really, really know myself,
Right.
about what I wanted. Because, we all, we go through life. So much of it is just really what other people thought we were going to do or expected. I mean, I remember when I was in, college and picking a major, the first major that I became interested in was psychology. And I remember people saying, like, you really shouldn't, that's probably not the right fit, or, that's going to be hard for you to really make a successful living at. And I listened to them.
Mhm.
And I switched my major to business administration. It was great. It helped me in my career, in the corporate space, but my heart was the psychology, which is why it kind of came full circle. Now I'm back to doing something that is more, it's heart-centered, but it absolutely is about, mindset and understanding, our emotions and the body and the mind and the spirit, how it all works together. So it's the rediscovery piece, I think, that I was most surprised about, and that grief taught me such valuable lessons that, we're not going to be the same person that we were, but we're going to be an evolved version. Um, and that I'm very, very grateful for.
Yeah. Now that leads me to my next question, because I love the fact that you said that, and you said something in the beginning. I want to touch on that a little bit. During your healing process, you spoke about the many things that you had to go back in and address in order to be. What were some of those things that your healing process revealed to you about yourself?
So, my sister and I would say we were very different. My sister expressed everything very outwardly. So you always kind of knew where she stood on things, and where she felt like, things from the past had impacted her. At the time, I was not a very compassionate person. I was just, I'm a very practical person. So I was very much just be happy, right? Happiness is a choice. You just be happy. Just be happy. Because when I looked at our childhood, and I'm like, there was nothing that happened that was so insurmountable. I mean, my parents had gotten divorced. It wasn't a great divorce. That definitely impacted us. But I couldn't understand. She would always say, I can't get past the past. And I never understood that when she was here until I did. And I totally got what she was trying to articulate all those years, because we have so many things that happen in our childhood that don't really reveal themselves to us until we get older. And when you start to have experiences in life and you're like, why is the same kind of thing keep showing up in my life? For me, it was relationships. I was very successful in my career. I had great friends, but relationships were always challenging for me. And I never stopped to really think about why that was. Why does the same stuff keep popping up for me? Why can't I have, just this healthy, loving, wonderful relationship that I so desperately wanted? And so as part of this journey, I had to go back to my past and really start to unravel and untie some knots that I didn't even know I had, to be honest. Again, when my sister and I would have this conversation, I'm like, I don't get it. We had the same childhood. I don't understand why you've been so impacted by things. I'm fine, but I had just pushed everything down. I just wasn't dealing with it. She was expressing it. And if you think about, our belief systems, the majority of those are complete by the time we're 7, which is fascinating and also kind of scary to me, because I don't know any 7-year-olds that are, having experiences and then sitting down and logically thinking about that, right?
Right.
Like, what was that experience and what part did I play and what part did this person play? And like logically thinking through that to come up with a realistic assumption. We just made assumptions about what things meant because we didn't have that cognitive capability to really work through that. And a lot of the assumptions that we made ended up sounding like it must be because I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy, or I'm not lovable. And I certainly had a lot of those limitations. And so I found a modality called rapid transformational therapy that really helped me go back and look at the past from an adult set of eyes. And I was hesitant to do it because, when people talk about going back to your past, and if you've been pushing things down, like, you become very good at that, right? So now someone's coming and saying, we're going to unpack all that. I'm like, the stuff that I've worked really hard to pack away, no, I'm not doing that. You're just like, I've worked so hard on this strategy and you just want to demolish it. But it didn't happen that way. It's not, you don't open Pandora's box. You don't relive the experience. You just revisit it from a perspective that actually can look at it more objectively and come up with a different meaning. And so a lot of these things that had happened in my past, I had, made an assumption about. And as I went back and untied those knots, I came up with a new meaning, and the new meanings liberated me, absolutely liberated me. And so then I was able to say, okay, so that thing wasn't true. It was never true. So who do I want to be? What beliefs do I want to hold? What values are important to me? And I loved it so much, I got certified in it because it changed my life. It was absolutely a game changer.
Right. I definitely feel that. I feel that on such a deeper level, right? Because like yourself, I fell in love with grief, everything about it. Which leads me to my next question. What was the hardest thing about trusting the process that you could share with the audience?
Yeah, trusting the process. We're not great at surrender, right? And
right.
We want to have control. And I think that was the hardest part, is just giving up the control and knowing that there was going to be a result. It probably wasn't going to look like what I thought it was going to look like. It was probably going to be better than I even imagined, which it always is. But I lost a lot of people in my life when I was going through this. And I think that was really difficult to trust that, the universe, I had already lost my sister, and now friends were just dropping. People, my support system kind of just went away. And I'm like, why, why do I keep getting, these things that are so challenging when I was already in a really difficult, challenging time.
Right.
And it's hard to understand when you're in it. When you can get further enough away from it, you can look back and all of a sudden all the dots connect and you understand. And I understood that I had to be alone during this time. I had to go within because it was such deep work that if I was still, doing the same things, partying and going these places and, having all these social interactions, I would never have taken the time. I would never have taken the time that it takes to just go in and reflect and do some real work. I mean, I was doing real work every day on myself. But that's hard to do when you're just, alone. And so I think that was the biggest thing that it taught me. Just there's a reason why you need to be, a little bit isolated and not isolated from a support standpoint, because that's a whole nother piece of grief, but just isolated just so I could limit the distractions and just really have no other path but to do this work.
Right. Yeah. Wow. I felt that so deeply. I felt that very deep because it's very similar, almost mirrored on both ends, right? A lot of people don't understand that, especially I talk to a lot of people across the board, and I realized that we have all of that in common. The people that we thought that was going to be around that left us, the path of loneliness, like grief, they say it's a very isolating thing, but they don't. People never talk about the people that are doing the work, how isolating it was for us to get to where we are today, right? The sacrifices, the commitment to it, right? The humiliation that comes along with it, the expectations that we have that we had that never came around, right? And having to redevelop your belief system to something that you never thought it would be, right? Because life took on a whole new meaning for you. And this is like, whoa, this is not what I thought it was going to be. But here we are, right? And so now when we talk about the foundation of what we believe grief is, because we have the 5 stages of grief that was written by Kubler-Ross and things like that, and sometimes we like to hold that to be the basis of what grief is supposed to look like until we get educated, and then we have to come back and go, yeah, you might want to rethink what that is, right? And nothing against it. I think it's a great pillar, right? To a great foundation to base what grief is going to look like for you. It have five major points that you can build upon. So it has this place. Now, what are your thoughts on it?
Yes, I think what we all, and I don't even know that it was ever designed I don't think it was ever designed to be a linear experience. I think we adopted it as that. Like we just assumed that's what that meant, right? That you go through those stages in this order and then you're done. So I think it's much more fluid than that. I think those are 5 experiences that you may or may not go through, because not, the one thing I know about grief, and we all know about grief if we've been through it, it is very different for each person. And that difference does not mean you're doing it wrong, because whatever you need to take from the experience. So, Tony, we transform through our grief. Not everybody will, and that's perfectly okay too. We really have to get away from there's one way, there's one path, because that's, we're unique individuals. Like we all came into this world I believe, with a unique purpose. And so, of course, our grief experience is going to be different because we've grown up differently. We've had different experiences. We had different relationships. We had different belief systems. So, one, it's as unique as the person experiencing it. You can't do it wrong. There are some, things that you can do to move things forward, maybe in a different way. But for me, it was, really understanding, I think first and foremost, that your grief has to be witnessed, that, we have to have our grief witnessed. We have to be able to say, this is what I'm feeling, this is what it is, and that be okay. We're not comfortable seeing people that we care about being in pain without wanting to go in and fix it. Like, that's just kind of our natural human response, is to fix the pain or to just rush it along, right? Because we live in this microwave society where everything's fast, like, fast results for everything. Well, grief isn't fast. And so it kind of doesn't play by the rules. So I think first it's, having your grief witness. It's so important because connection heals and community heals. And that's what we're trying to do in this grief space, is to bring people together so that they feel like they belong. They feel like they have a space where they can share and express their grief in a way that it's not going to be judged. It's not going to be fixed. It's not going to be rushed along. It's just going to be whatever it needs to be.
Yeah.
The emotions is the big part. So, getting good at understanding our emotions and being able to name and express them. And I just got an emotions wheel, and I'm just fascinated by it because, when we say, here's how I'm feeling, most of us stay very tight within these, few emotions that we're all comfortable talking about, right? Sadness, happiness, fear, surprise. But when you start to kind of drill down, our emotions and feelings are much more nuanced than that. And when you can really understand the actual feeling and experience that you're having, then you can really start to unpack that and understand, what is it trying to tell you? For my sister, when I looked at that wheel, one of the things I, obviously felt was sadness. But then when I looked down, it was guilt that I was really feeling. And then when I looked further from guilt, it was remorse. And so that gave me a launching point to address the remorse and the regret. If I just left it at sadness, I would have just said, well, yeah, I'm sad. Of course I'm sad. And I wouldn't have done anything else about it. But remorse gave me a pathway. So I think it's so important that we understand what we're feeling and we're able to name and articulate it at that more nuanced level, because that's what's giving us the detail. Because I feel like emotions are like alert systems, right? Like, it's like you're driving your car and the, check engine light comes on.
Yeah.
That's what our emotions are doing. And, it'll keep coming on. If you keep ignoring it, then all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's smoke coming out of the hood, right? So now you have to take the car in, pop the hood, see what's going on. I feel that's the same with our emotions. And guilt, that's another piece of this. There's so much guilt associated with grief. I think I've read 99% of the work is really about the guilt, because we hold so much of the woulda, shoulda, couldas. And so that was a big piece of this, just working through that and and forgiving myself for a lot of things, forgiving a lot, really, not just myself, but forgiving a lot in my life. And just, finding that meaning in it. And I know that's hard when we talk about grief to say we're finding meaning in it. And there's never meaning in the death. And I think that's an important distinction that we have to make. But if we're able to, integrate the pain and the joy and the happiness and the love, if we're able to integrate those, then we're not having to pick one or the other. So often we live in this dualistic world. So it's, I can be happy or I can be sad. I can have pleasure or I can have pain. But I don't think we're ever meant to pick one or the other. We're meant to hold conflicting emotions at the same time.
Yes.
Integrate those, right? So, a big part of the lessons I learned was, I can be very sad and feel the pain from the losses, not just my sister. I lost my mom and dad in the past year. And I can still hold the love I had for them. And I can take both of those, pick them up with me, and carry them forward as I move forward into a life that does have meaning and fulfillment. And for me, the meaning came from doing this work and going out and helping other people on their journey. It doesn't have to look like that. It can be as simple as, a memorial that you've made for your loved one that you're, leaning on those tough days when you need it. It could be volunteering at an organization that maybe had something to do with how you lost the person. It could be, my dad was a huge golfer. He had such big plans for my sister and I our whole lives. He would get clubs cut down to size. Like, he really wanted us to be golfers. And it never happened. So I made a decision that I'm going to start taking golf lessons and take that up, because that's the way that I can feel close to my dad. I can be out on the golf course, and that's the way that I carry the love with me. I carry the memories with me. And I'm sure there's going to be times on the golf course that I break down because I'll remember riding in the cart with them. And that's going to bring up a really sad memory. But, that we're supposed to have those oscillating feelings. We're not supposed to, choose one or the other and stay stuck on one side of that.
I love that. You said something interesting. When I say this, I'm only giving my thoughts and my opinion on. You said, sometimes there's not meaning in the death of someone. For me, and again, I'm just speaking from my own perspective, I found it possible to find meaning in a death. And what I mean by that, and again, it's just one of those things that I came about. When I lost my father, I didn't see the meaning in his death at first, right? But then over a period of time, I saw the mercy. I saw what he instilled in me and things like that, And when he passed away, it gave me a different connection with him, right? So, and what I mean by that, I realized that, his time with me was up. It was up to me to do what it was taught to me as a young man in the world. When I lost my younger brother, of course, I didn't see the meaning in his passing and things like that. But over a period of time, I understood his heartbreak. And again, I saw the mercy in that. And I became thankful because I did get the opportunity to be a part of his life. When I lost my son, I didn't see the meaning in his passing either, right? I didn't understand why it had to be that way. But over a period of time, I looked at his passing as a blessing to me because I had the opportunity to be his father, right? I had the opportunity to have that love, and some people don't even get that. And so I was like, wow, that was a very beautiful opportunity. And it taught me, again, when I lost my mom, same thing, it was like, I don't understand this. But as I began to heal and unpack those things, I saw the beauty in her passing. Because of all of those combinations of things that had given me, it was the experience.
Right.
To be able to show up for other people that may not see the blessing that was given to you in their passing. And again, I'm just speaking from my perspective and things like that. There's going to be people that may not or may agree with me, and that's totally fine. Like we said, like we understand grief. Look, there's no right or wrong way to do this.
Right. And I think it's the way you articulated that is beautiful. I felt that, in my soul. And I think as you were talking, Tony, I think what I found, and maybe, it's just different language,
Mm-hmm.
is I found some relief, which is another hard thing to say when you're talking about somebody that you loved.
Mm-hmm.
But again, if we know that every experience, every feeling has polarity, which we know it does. So if we have pain on one side and pain can turn to suffering with grief for sure, then relief has to be on the other side of it. And the way that I came to that with my dad is I realized when my parents were alive that I was holding myself back from talking about my sister. So I knew that I wanted to go into this work. I knew that it was my purpose. I knew through my sister's death, I found myself and my calling in this world. But I was hiding. I was playing small because I didn't want to talk about it and have that be harder for my parents who had lost their daughter. And so I found myself posting on Facebook, but going in and blocking them from seeing the content. Trying to, talk about it at times. I didn't think that they were going to be online. And so when my dad passed away, it hit me that was the relief I felt. Not the relief for me. It wasn't the relief that he was gone. It was the relief that now I can go forward with this openly, authentically, and I don't have to worry about upsetting them or making something worse for them. So that was a real eye-opener for me.
I totally see, and again, I totally agree with all of there's no right or wrong way or right or wrong answers in this, right? Mm-hmm. It's what we develop over time. It's the connection. And so, for me, grief became the reality of the deep embedded human connection that we have with one another. It's seeing the connection in life and death and the connecting point of grief with it, right? Mm-hmm. And there's going to be people that may or may not agree with me because everybody has their own opportunity for this to be what they need it to be, right? And that's the beautiful thing about it. This is universal. This thing is universal on so many different levels that the deep connection that we have in grief, this is the one thing, no matter who you are, what you look like, your ethnic group, your belief system, grief is the deepest human connection that you can have with a human being.
Yes.
It's universal.
Mm-hmm.
And this is why I love the work that we do, to have these conversations, because you realize that this thing is how we're connected. Yes. You can't get away from it.
And you don't want to.
You don't want to, but
you don't want to.
Now there's people that want to now.
Well, you don't. I say that because the only way we can get away from not experiencing grief is to not love. It's to not hold attachments. Because if you hold an attachment to a person or, an animal or a thing, mm-hmm. if you lose that, you're going to have grief.
Yeah.
That is grief, right? That is exactly what grief is. And I don't want to live in a world, and I hope no one else wants to live in a world where we don't love, where we don't attach, because that is, like you said, we have a core human need of connection. It is one of the 6 basic core human needs. And so I'm a very independent person. I'm an introvert, so I need my alone time, and yes. I need my connection. Absolutely.
Yeah, we have people commenting on Instagram. They're just saying thank you, and agreeing, talking about the club that we're all in, the different variations of it. Just saw Kelly Ritchie. I've had her on the show. Another amazing person that's in the grief field out here doing some amazing work as well. And they brought up something. Kelly brought up something that I want to this comment right here. I want to let's unpack this a little bit, because I think this is a really big common thing that when we actually think about it, people have that fear, right? And Kelly says, "Oh, good point. I need to think about her kids. Maybe they don't talk to me about my daughter's death for fear they will upset me." I think that is a huge thing that people do. Now, before we dive into that one, I want to go to Golden Willow Dula over here on Instagram, and they say Buddha says to release attachments, and I'm not completely sure about that one. I think we could dive deeper into that one as well. So, the first one, I think the fear that people, and this is universal again across the board, people fear upsetting you about the losses. And I think that's part of the reason why people leave, right? Because maybe they don't understand. And trust me when I say this, I'm thankful that you don't understand.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I was talking with Kelly yesterday and everything. And I had Kelly on the show. We talked about this a little bit, where we can look at the next person and go, I hate the fact that I know you.
Right. I love I know you, but I hate that. Yeah.
I hate the fact that I know you, that we in the same club. Now, thank you for allowing me the chance to get to meet you, but I still hate the fact that I know you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so the connection between isolation when people leave, and this is we can go deeper into this one, because what happens a lot of times when people leave, we take it personal, not seeing the other side of it. But I think there's a fear that comes along with that. Let's unpack that for a little bit. What do you think? What are your thoughts?
Well, I love this topic because I just wrote an ebook called After the Service, and it's a practical guide to help people with this exact thing. Because when I really immersed myself in this space, the number one thing that I was seeing when I talked to people, or comments that I would see online or in communities that I was in, was this two-sided issue. You had people that wanted to support, good people, right? That they love and they care about their friends or family members, their coworkers. They want to be there, but they don't know how. And just to your point, Tony, they're so afraid of saying the wrong thing. They're so afraid of making it worse. And so a lot of times that causes people to retreat and to say nothing. And that's the surface level reasons, but it actually goes deeper than that, because when that fear is coming up, a lot of times it's fear because we don't know how to process our own grief. Like we don't know, we were never taught this. No one ever sat us down and said, you're going to experience loss throughout your entire life. And it's going to be more than just death. There's going to be so many losses, right? Loss of friendships, loss of jobs, loss of hopes and dreams, there's so many. And you're going to need to process that. You're going to need to learn how to talk about it, to ask for what you need, and to support other people. That never happened. And so people feel very ill-equipped in this space to show up in a way that matters and that's meaningful. But and in the guide, I have lots of practical tips for how to do that, right? I have grief check-ins. I have text prompts that you can use. I have, ideas for writing condolence cards. So it's very practical. But on the other side of the issue is the person that's grieving. We don't really care what the words are. It's not really the words that matter. It's just showing up and knowing that you're seen and your grief is being witnessed, and there's somebody to just hold space for you. And we know that, our loved one's not being forgotten, because I think at the core, that's one of the main fears of people going through grief is the world has moved on. Like, we're watching this happen, right? as it does. People have to go back to their lives. We're so fearful that the world's going to forget about the person that meant so much to us. We just want people to ask us about them, bring up their name, bring up the memories that, that you hold for them. That helps us so much. And I know for me, it was never, in my ebook, I do have a few platitudes that I say, these are probably things that aren't as helpful to say, but here's why. And I actually give context behind that. But I was never scrutinizing anybody's words. I know everybody's, showing up and doing, the very best that they can in the situation that can be very uncomfortable. The only thing that ever stood out to me was the silence, not hearing from certain people. That actually stood out to me.
Yeah.
But we're not, we just, as a society, we're not very good at sitting with other people's pain, right? We want to fix it. We just want to make it better. And so just being there, presence is such a gift.
It really is.
When someone's grieving.
It really is. We got a few comments over here. The first one that we talked about with Buddha, we're going to touch on that. But they also made a recommendation, recommending free hospice volunteer training if you really want to understand death and dying. That is a great way to go and do it. Becoming a doula, end of life doula. I do death cafes. We talk about this very exact thing. What does it do? We make the uncomfortable conversations comfortable by talking about the things that are that is essential in order for you to live your finite life, right? You know what I'm saying? Let's work on what your death is going to look like. Let's plan this thing out. What do you want? You know what I'm saying? And it's making it a reality. We have to get back to understanding this is going to be a part of life, right?
Yep.
Let's work on these things so you can be comfortable in knowing that your family's going to be taken care of afterwards, right? And I appreciate the work that the doulas out there are doing because they're there during and after, right? To make sure that your family, from your wishes, and it keeps the family from having to play the guessing game of the woulda, coulda, shoulda, wouldas, right? Also, this is for you. They want to know how they can find you. Now, I do have your information in the YouTube channel. Oh, thank you for that. And this is we can definitely talk about that. But they want to know how to find you, and you did send your information to. If you haven't already, go over to the YouTube channel. Her information is down there. But I'll have Karen to let you know where they can find you when we get done with the conversation. And always thank you for what you bring to us as well. Kelly over here on YouTube said yes after. Thank you so much. After her appearance on the podcast, she had so many people say, I learned so much about you that I never knew, that they didn't want to ask.
Yeah.
It is, that is part of it, right? This is why it's important to have these open conversations. We got Rapid Resolution Therapy that just joined in over here on Instagram. Thank you so much. I think you can relate to that. Yes, goldenwillowdoula.com. She just put that. They just put that information up there as well.
There's some fabulous organizations.
Yeah,
hospice I had exposure to with my mom who had dementia. They're so fabulous.
yes,
they're angels. Everybody that is part of those organizations, they are the heroes in my mind.
Do you have me both, right?
Right? They're showing up in the moments when you are, just broken down and so scared. Like I just remember I fortunately got to be by my mom and dad's bedside when both of them passed. I held my mom's hand as she took her last breath. My dad, had left the hospital that night and he passed away that evening. But the first people there were hospice to console me and to make sure I had everything I needed and helping with those first few things, right? Because I have just started to learn how our brain processes grief, and that is fascinating. And
Oh,
there's
yes.
some real good research coming out, emerging research about this that I think is going to be so critical, because if people really understood what your brain is going through, I mean, your whole brain's mapping system gets obliterated
Yeah.
when someone passes away, because your brain's job is to gather all this data and to help predict things. So it's always predicting, it's why, you can leave your spouse during the day, because your brain knows you're going to come back together, because it has all this data to say so. Well, when you still hold the attachment of somebody that you love, but they're no longer physically here, your brain doesn't know what to do with that. And so that's why we can stay in that state of yearning, because it's our brains telling us, like, you should be seeing them now. That's why we go a year later and pick up our phone to text somebody when we know logically they're gone. But we have to help our brain remap and rewire things. And I personally don't believe that time heals. I believe learning heals. I believe it's what we do with our time that matters. And so
They go hand in hand.
they go hand in
They,
hand.
yeah, they go hand in hand. That's the beautiful thing about it, and just like you, the doulas out there, I have a lot of respect. Look, I am partnered with IDLM, International Deaf League Movement, Doula League Movement, and they are international. They train doulas across the world. I have nothing but the utmost respect for these individuals, or anyone in this field for that matter, right?
Mhm.
Because it's the sacrifices of taking what you have gone through and giving that away to someone else. And it's nothing. Look, I admire them. I'm just like you. Look, they're out there doing the thing, right? And they're making it look so beautiful, and saying it's so easy in so many different ways. It's just like, wow, they took the time to go out and say, I want to be this right here.
That's
Peer
the
support is key. I took
strength when you don't have it, right? And
right,
death is very, grief is very practical. We're not
very
thinking about in the beginning stages in early grief, we're not thinking about the meaning pieces. Like, those things come later, but in early grief, it's just, how am I getting through this day, this hour, this minute? And when you have resources that are coming in to just give you some stability and strength, it is invaluable.
yes. I'm gonna put this over here. I think this is for you, and so they put up their email for you. If I can learn how to spell. So a great way to connect, and I think this is for you. Is nope, I can't spell. Let me go back here and make sure that I did this the right way. So I'm gonna put this up here for you. Let me just make sure, double check. So yeah, the goldenwillowdoula@gmail.com. What I'm saying, if you get a chance, just what I'm saying, connect with them.
Yeah.
Beautiful people again. But you know, the more and more we talk, the more and more we find there's this huge connection of how all of this is just intertwined with one another, right? And I think that's what fascinates me the most about people, and what I'm saying, this thing called grief and death in life. There's this thing that we bypass or we choose to overlook. And I come in and I say, no, your addiction is tied to it. Your homelessness is tied to it. The anger that you feel is tied to it. The love that you feel is tied to it. Everything is connected.
Yep.
It's what makes you who you are. And here's one of the biggest things that I've had to go back in and remind people. I said, look, don't ever stop a person's journey. So when you think that, what I'm saying, that you don't want to see that person hit their version of rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
I say, let them. Do not stop it. And they go, what do you mean? I said, did anybody stop you? Right? Did anybody stop you from hitting your version of rock bottom? They go, no. I said, then why would you stop them? Just be there to make sure that they don't go the next step and end up making a decision that can change their lives forever, or change the people's lives that are around them forever. Be a visitor, walk with them. You know what I'm saying? Yep, get it done idea, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, walk with them and make sure that they know that they have a companion with them. If this is the road that you're going to take on, be a visitor, but don't stop it. Please don't, because
it's so hard to do as parents.
It's so hard to do.
As parent, like, you see your kids, and I mean, I constantly have to remind myself of this. If you knew how many times I've said those exact words that you just did, it is so hard as a parent, especially you want to protect, right? You want to shelter your kids. Mm-hmm. But I can tell you that some of the hardest things that my kids have gone through are they're the greatest lessons. And we know that, when you go through it, you know that. And so what you're saying is, if we're always protecting and trying to, orchestrate everything, we're getting in the way of the lessons. We're getting in the way of the richness that comes from going through the challenges.
Yes.
And especially with our kids, they need that as they go out into the world. If we protect their whole lives, they're going to go into the world thinking everything is easy and, everything just works out. And that's not the real world. And so it's so true. And it's also one of the hardest things.
Yeah, because we don't want to see the people that we love get hurt. So we got a comment over here. I want you to answer this one. This is for you. This Kelly said they would love to buy your ebook. Where can they get it?
Oh, absolutely. So I have a Stan store, and I'll put the link into it. But my handle, so I'm on TikTok, hanging out on TikTok, which I never thought I would be doing. As a 53-year-old, I'm out there on TikTok, but it's actually a really cool platform that it allows you to engage a lot more in different authentic ways. So I'm loving it. But on TikTok, I'm at Grief Lost Love, and that's my Stan store too. But I'll put the link in for that ebook, and it's my first ebook. I have a whole list I'm looking at over here that I'm going to be developing, because my coaching, I believe coaching is such an important piece of this process. And for people that need somebody to step through the journey and to walk through the journey, that's what coaching allows for. But I was seeing so many people suffering that needed immediate support. And so these digital products, these grief guides, they give some people immediate support. And that was really important to me. So I have a whole list of grief guides that I'm going to be working on, that people have told me, what about this? It would be helpful for this. And there's so many. My mind's just spinning all the time. A friend asked me for cultural differences.
Yeah.
And we had a fascinating conversation about how she's going through this experience where she's expected to grieve a certain way because of her culture, but she's moved from where she was raised, and now she's in this identity crisis from a cultural standpoint, that she doesn't know how to grieve and not upset everybody. Everyone has different expectations of her from a cultural standpoint. I'm like, that is fascinating. I would have never have thought about that, but there's just so many nuanced elements of this.
I'm putting this over here. My friend GWD over here, put up her friend that to connect on TikTok. Melissa the Mortician. I'm gonna put this over here. So if you are on TikTok, go with it. I'm also on TikTok as well. And so what I'm saying, go check her out. Connect. I'm on TikTok. I do lives with Tina and a lot of people over there.
Oh, we'll have to do a live together. Tony, we'll have to do a live together on TikTok.
Yeah, we have to. You know what I'm saying? You ain't saying nothing but a word. Don't you be tempting me with a good time, because I'll show up, okay?
We'll just hang and talk for a couple hours. Like, that's no problem for us, right?
Yeah, that's no problem. I want to go back because I want to dive into this comment that my friend put over here, the Buddha comment. and because we didn't get a chance to talk about that, I want to dive a little bit deeper into this because I want to shed some light to it. I do a lot of reading and a lot of deep diving into. I want to understand the cultural as well as where people are coming from through these different belief systems. And it's the comment about Buddha. Buddha says release the attachments, and they're not surely not completely sure about that. And maybe just shining a little light on that as well. I'm gonna let you start off with that. What are your thoughts on that? And anybody else who's listening, what I'm saying? What are your thoughts on it, right? Buddha says, let go of the attachments.
And I think I really struggled with that when I went down my kind of spiritual journey and I read that. I'm like, because you also read, you have to have a clear intention, right? You have to know where you're going, what you want, but you have to release the attachment. I'm like, I don't know how to do both of those things. Like I know how to do one and I know how to do the other, but I don't know how to put that together. But I think what I've come to on that is it's about being very clear again on having a vision for your life, understanding what's important to you and where you want to go. To me, the attachment's more about how it's going to show up. So releasing the control and the expectation of how it's going to show up, when it's going to show up, and knowing that, and again, trusting the universe knows more than we do. And I always say that. I'm like, you know what, universe, you know more than me. You're smarter than me. So whatever you bring me, I know is what I actually need. Because we may say, I want X, Y, and Z. And the universe may say, well, I see what you want, but I'm giving you this because it's what you really need.
Right.
When we get what we need versus what we want, initially you can, it's like, come on, I placed my direct order here. Like, why are you giving me this? Well, again, you can't really see it and connect the dots when you're in it, but when you get a little further away, you're like, it's exactly what I needed. It's exactly the thing I needed to just explode the growth, to peel back more layers. So that's what it means to me. It means just releasing the expectation of when and how it's going to show up. And I was just thinking about this morning, because every year I have a word, a word of the year that I come up with. Mm-hmm. And last year, my word of the year was collaboration. And I had exactly 0 collaborations in that year. This year already, I think I've had 15 and I have so many more scheduled. So by all definitions, I would say last year that the universe didn't listen to what my intention was, right? I said I wanted collaborations. But I wasn't ready for the collaborations that I'm experiencing now. I needed to do more growth. I needed to do more healing. When I showed up and was actually engaging with my intention, they're flooding in. Mm-hmm. So there's divine timing. Divine timing is a real part of this. And where you're at on your journey, we may think we're ready, but every time I thought I was ready, when I had that additional time to learn and grow, I realized that I wouldn't have done what I could do now if I had gotten it when I said I wanted it. That makes sense.
It definitely makes sense. We've got a couple comments over here. So GWD on Instagram said, dive deeper into the comment that she put on, start on chapter 4 in the Tibetan Book of Death. Studying. So more resources, right? Letting go of control. That's part of it as well, and they pretty much said they need help with advocacy and the PNW. So, again, these collaborations, these people that are come on and, show their support for us as we have these conversations, take the opportunity, guys, take the opportunity to reach out to each other, right? And work with each other. Things like that. So it's a great way for us to be able to grow as a community in this grief, death, and dying field, right? Let's expand our reach. Kelly Richard says, as you said, be careful what you wish for. You wish for collaboration. These things come about. Yeah. And if I could just give my thoughts on the detachment as from maybe you know for me this is something that I developed, a really good technique that I developed along the way. I learned to detach myself from expectations,
Mm-hmm.
right? Of what I what I thought that people should do or shouldn't do, and things like that, and just let it be, right? Detach myself away from emotions that did not serve me or could not serve other people. Realizing that once I came into another person's space, it had nothing to do with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted it to be in honor of the person that I was in the space with. So I learned to visit those things. So I had to detach myself from being selfish
Mm-hmm.
in that and going, well, in comparison to other people, right? You know what I'm saying? Well, I went, no, no, no. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to show up. And whatever this looks like for you in these moments, it's my honor and privilege to be in these moments with you. And I want to always respect that with those individuals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to take something away from it as, you know, as a student in your space. You may not understand it at the moment, but I'm being a student in your space right now. And I'm looking for the lessons that you're teaching me so I can be better, right?
Yeah.
So I can grow as a human being, as I can grow as someone who's been in this grief space for 6 years, and I'm still amazed at it. I'm still excited in it, right?
We're
And
just
things like
scratching
that.
the
So,
surface. Don't you feel like I feel like we're just scratching the surface with this?
oh yeah, every day,
Yeah.
every moment that I get the chance to do this, it's like, wow. Like I'm always in amazement of it. I'm always curious of it. Yes, yes. But this is part of it. So go to Willow. Said they made a comment over here, and yes, this is part of what you just said. And there are some people, and I'm not taking away from no one, but I have met these people before. You have some people that should not be in this field, and it's hard to say that because for someone who has so much love for this thing called grief, and what I'm saying, and so much love for the human beings that are experiencing it and things like that. Yes, I have run across people that should not be doing this work. They are very few and far in between, but when you run across them, it makes it seem like that there's more out there um, than the people that should be. Don't let them change your trajectory, right? But don't be afraid to call them out neither. They're going to be your narcissists. They're going to be the ones that are out here afraid to let people go because they don't have the skills in order to help navigate those people, but they don't want to let them go because they're looking for the money, right?
And if you can't make it, like you said, Tony, less about you and more about them,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work with grief. Like you have to meet people where they're at. You really
You
do.
have to.
And you can be a light and a guide, but this all has to be very fluid because again, if we're just saying like this is the way and you have to fit into this way or else you're doing it wrong, like all we're
Right,
doing is perpetuating this message that
right.
we have to get away from. We have to, we have to turn the page. And grief has a stigma just like mental health does.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of work that needs to be done to move this
Oh
forward.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, that's the look. The more and more we have conversations behind it, the more and more it opens up the doors for us to expand on what we already have, right? To
Yes.
build upon it. Not because there's never going to be a solid blueprint on it, right? That blueprint, here's what the blueprint that you will come up with is a baseline. And if you're going to develop a baseline blueprint, make sure that it's like a Lego set.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that, make sure you're able to take pieces out in order to put different pieces in, because you may start off with something that's this big that's going to continue grow in every different, just like how grief is not linear, nor is the blueprint. And for
Right.
those who go, oh well, it has to be this way, I say, hey, if that's what people are looking for, give them what they need, right? Give them
Yep.
what they need. And maybe you did come up with a formula that can help people go through it. I mean, I have a 12-week program, but that program is also based upon the people that are taking this program. It's not designed over, what I'm saying, to be the end
One size
all.
fits all. Yeah, it's not a one
Right.
size fits
It's
all.
not a one size fit all. It's based around on what you need.
Yep.
Right. And so that's the way I designed it. It's designed to take you deeper into it, to address those things, to hold yourself accountable, learn forgiving, learn healing, but also, holding yourself to a standard of wanting you to want more out of your journey. Right. And so you can take these out. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Hey, thank you so much for tuning in and everything. And yeah, hopefully we can see you on the next one as well. And they said looking forward to collaborating with you. So when you get a chance to, please reach out to them. Right? You know what I'm saying?
Awesome. Great.
I tell you, this is such a beautiful thing. So many people, so many amazing people that have tuned in. But yeah, we've just now opened up the doors. We've just now got it to a point to where we can have conversations, deep and better conversations around it, and connect with different people to show, hey, I went through this, and this is what I've learned. Let me share this with you. And then you realize you're not the only one.
Hmm.
We encourage people to come out and have a voice, and not be afraid to ask for the support that they need and deserve from amazing people like yourself and like Kelly and GWD over here on Instagram, and what I'm saying, rapid theory, rapid resolution theory over here, so the EDMTs, EDMRs, the breath work, the yoga, the list goes on and on and on, and we're still adding to this thing, right? We're still adding to it.
Yes. I mean, it's endless. I mean, again, I have a flip chart. That's why I keep looking over here. The ideas are endless, and I feel like I can't sleep anymore because now I've turned
Right,
on,
right.
and I'm just like
Oh,
idea after idea after idea, and I'm like, okay, you have to just like stay in the space you're at. All of that, will come or it won't, but there's just it's opening my mind to just the vast number of possibilities.
right, right.
And it doesn't have to look like like one thing. Like there's just this work. I think it's going to evolve in ways that it's going to surprise us.
Oh yeah, oh
And that's
yeah.
exciting, right? When people say, you're very excited about being a grief transformation coach. I'm like, I am, because one, I'm in alignment, and nothing feels better than alignment. Nothing,
Exactly,
nothing.
exactly.
And then I'm just seeing all these different ways and paths forward that I had never thought about before. And so that
Mhm.
is exciting to me.
And before we begin to wrap this thing up, there was some I was there a show yesterday, and they made a suggestion to me because I was telling them about the creativity that comes along with this. And I'm always doing things right. I've started a magazine, written 2 books, I've written programs, the conferences. I'm doing children's animations just because, so I think it'd be fun to do them, to try to help children process their emotions and grief and have an understanding through these animations. But they also said something different and said something to me, I'm going to be exploring this as well as I'm developing a grief resource app for people. So, what I'm saying, the creativity, but there's like, I was telling them I love to draw. I used to love to draw when I was a kid, and I was thought of creating a comic book. And so they ran this idea across me, and I'm going to run this idea across you just to say, what do you think about this, right? So, and maybe even encourage somebody to even do it, right? Don't put this all on me. I mean, Like, take the idea and run with it if you need
Yeah.
to. But
Yeah.
I was thinking of doing a magazine. I mean, not magazine, but a comic book based around one guy. We're going to call this guy Grief Guy. The Chronicles of Grief Guy. This guy was born with this amazing gift of grief to where he could see other people's pain and things like that. He's a loner. He's traveled across the world, never knowing where he's going to end up. But his gift caused him to be in certain places. And when he meets these people, he understands why he's there. And he gives them a piece of this magnificent gift that he has of healing and walking with them. Now, here's the curse. Can't be attached to people, places, or things because his gift requires him to be a loner in the world. So he'll never know love. He'll never know what a home feels like. He'll never know what it's like to have a family. But the blessing is that he's able to do these things as he's passing through these different places, meeting some amazing people.
And those people probably become his family, right? Like, I mean, we think of family as, you know, the families we were born into, but I mean, these, you know, it can look a lot of different ways. And so our mind will be expanded.
He doesn't know that. He doesn't understand that. He just knows that this is what he's called to do.
Just show up.
Just show up, right? To share this gift with them. And then he has to go on about his way. So he never understands. He just knows this is what he's called to do because he's just passing through these different places. So he doesn't understand the impact that he has on these individuals. He just knows this is what he's supposed to do. I
love this. And this is exactly what we're talking about. Like, that would have never come into my mind. Right?
So again, this is what I'm saying. Look, this is a great foundation. If someone wants to do it, or I mean, because I'll do it. Don't get me wrong. I love doing things like this, right? You know what I'm saying? But wouldn't that be a great comic book for people to have and have it like in like chronicles? Put it up on social media. People can read along with it and follow the adventures of Grief Guy. You know what I'm saying? And things
people
like that.
Love comic books. I mean, they're going to relate to that in a way that they may not relate to the way we talk about it, right? So it's all about giving so many different options and paths so that
right.
However, you know, you show up and relate to it, there's something that's going to make sense to you. And I think this is a fabulous idea.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right? People, be creative in this thing, right? That's the beautiful part about this thing that we do. And it's something that I always try to encourage people to do. Let your imagination run wild. Be creative. Don't confine your gift to just what you see inside of the box. Go outside of the box. Create something into this world. Because the one thing that I've understood, and I want this for everyone, understand that the laws of physics, once you begin to do something like this, the laws of physics no longer apply to you. You can create whatever you want. Be creative. Don't limit yourself. And go out here and change the world, right? Be a part of the change. And make sure that we leave things behind.
Yeah, we're trying to be creators. We are creators. We are co-creators of our reality. Absolutely.
Do the thing. Just do it, right? If you're waiting for perfect time, it'll never be. Go out there and put something out there and build upon it, right? Make it yours, but share it with the world because you should, right? You know what I'm saying? And have fun. Have fun, you know what I'm saying, as you're doing it. And now, Karen, it leaves me with 2 more questions for you. 1, how can people find you?
So I am, my company is called Atmology, and that name was chosen intentionally. Atmology means the study of one's true self. And again, it was bigger than, my grief journey was bigger than just processing the pain. It really was a rediscovery of who I was. And so the name fits. So it's www.atmology, ATMALOGY.net. I'm on TikTok at grief lost love. And those are that's really the platform I'm on right now. But yeah, I would love to connect with anybody who, again, collaboration or just wants to have some additional conversation. So, happy to further these relationships.
Yes. My second question would be, first, I want to acknowledge the people who have been tuning in on Instagram, just jumping in. As we begin to wrap it up, if you guys would like to go and see the full episode, go over to the YouTube channel. It's coming across on the bottom over there. I appreciate your support. Now, you don't have to subscribe. I'm not asking for that. But if you're interested in hearing these conversations and things like that, please go and check it out. You know what I'm saying? And if you deem me worthy of your subscription, I would definitely appreciate that. If not, share it with someone who can benefit from the conversations that we have. This platform is for you guys. All right. Billy Be Kind, the executive broker, go to Willa Dula, everyone who has been tuning in. We got Awesome Gria. We have, rapid resolution therapy, evolve breath work, all of you guys, man. Thank you guys for just being supportive and things like that. Go check her out. Go check out Karen. Her information is in the YouTube channel. So go over there and check them out if you and collaborate, network. You know what I'm saying? Let's build this thing. Let's connect and grow as a unit, as healers, as people who understand or looking, maybe just providing support to other people. And for everyone over here on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and Rumble, Twitter, Twitch. I see you guys over there. Thank you guys for all the support that you guys give. And of course, you know what I'm saying, again, if you're just now tuning in and you want to see the full episode, go and check it out on the YouTube channel. Grief. Let's talk about it podcast on YouTube, right? Connect. Let's connect. Let's collaborate. Let's network. So now my second question, Karen, would be, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
So I do know my superpower, actually. I actually went through an exercise to figure this out. So my superpower is I am able to take a large amount of information. I'm a researcher. That's what I love to do. And I can take that information and I can bring it down to just the key components, and I can deliver that in a very consumable way. So I kind of take the heavy lifting out of the process. I'm a process nerd. That's just who I am through and through. It makes sense now that I'm in this space that I'm supposed to be helping to bring forward just, the most critical things that, people need to know as they're going through this. It took me a long time to dig and research and find the things. People don't have time for that. So I make sense of things. That is my superpower.
Love that. I love that. Now, with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Guys, thank you guys for tuning in for another amazing episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys know who it is. I'm Tony Letch. I'm the host of this podcast, and we bring you daily episodes. So, tune in tomorrow. We got another one. Weekends, we got even more coming for you. But stay tuned, you guys. If you haven't already and you would like to support, go pick up my new book, Men Grief 2. It's an anthology with 8 other men in here. Go pick that up. Go check out Relentless, empowering stories of overcoming adversity. One is going to be on lulu.com. Just look up my name, Tony Lynch. Purchase your book. Good. The other one, The Relentless, is on Amazon. And go check out Karen's ebook and all of her information as well, guys. Also, update, the conference is coming up April 25th, 26th, and the 27th, the Global Grief Conference. So come and check that out. It's going to be live streamed, so don't cost you nothing to tune in. It's going to be 3 days of presenters, music, comedy, etc. We got a lot of things coming. Also, go pick up your digital copy of the magazine, Grief Talk magazine. You guys already know it's in the website, down below, and it's free for you to download. Go check those out as well. And with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap this one up. Karen, thank you so much for this amazing conversation. I can't wait to do this again. Please let me know how I can always support you. And for everyone else, guys, love you. Thank you for your support. We're going to see you guys in the next one. We're out.
Thanks.